Welcome to another episode of Quarter Deck. Welcome to another episode of Quarter Deck. There is a famous saying about professional. The basic qualities of a professional are the ability to work unsupervised, the ability to certify the completion of a job or task, the ability to work with constant quality, and the ability to work with integrity at all times. Today we are with such a great professional, and he is none other than Dr. Jose Matheickal, Chief Technical Advisor, GloBallast International Maritime Organization and Head of Major Projects. Welcome to Quarter Deck, sir.
Thank you.
So shipping industry is taking many innovative steps to prevent the damage to atmosphere. To enhance the lower emissions, IMO has recently entered into a global maritime energy efficiency partnership project. Could you please tell more about this project? What is the aim and future prospect of this one?
Yes, you are right. The IMO community, including the shipping industry, have been taking some very proactive steps to address the emissions from shipping, the maritime sector, because that contributes to the climate change issues. So IMO has developed a set of regulations for the ships to address this issue. And one of the major barriers for implementation of these regulations is the lack of capacity in many parts of the world. So what IMO is doing is, again, a proactive steps with a roadmap how to build the capacity in these countries, how to facilitate technology flows and technology transfer so these countries can implement these regulations. So we are beginning this process, this journey of building this capacity in these countries. And the GloMeep project is an example how IMO is intervening. So GloMeep is the Global Maritime Energy Efficiency Project, which is funded by the Global Environment Facility, the United Nations Development Program, and IMO, whereby we are trying to build the institutional and technical capacity in these countries to address this issue. So GloMeep is mainly focusing on institutional capacity building, legal policy and institutional reforms in these countries, so they can have legislations, they can have policies which allows them to implement these requirements, these regulations. The prospects of this project is significant because the more the developing countries who are playing an increasing role in the maritime sector, if they are able to address this issue, the better we are and the faster we can tackle this issue. So GloMeep provides a very basic fundamental platform to build the capacity building in the developing countries. The project also brings private sector partnerships into this. We will be launching a global industry alliance within this GloMeep project, where we are going to bring a lot of championing industries to join hands with us to identify common solutions. And it also would be doing a lot of training and capacity building programs in these countries. We are developing training packages. We are training the trainers around the world. We are developing expertise, so we have more trainers around the world. And we are promoting a lot of information exchange between developed and developing countries. So there is a lot of flow of this information which the developing countries will be benefiting from. So that is the central focus of GloMeep: build capacity so they can implement these regulations, so they can meet with the requirements, which will contribute to reducing the emissions from shipping.
So what are the major components being dealt through this project?
Yes, the project has three major components, and one of the most important components is the legislation, policy, and institutional developments in these countries. So we have around 10 countries participating in the project as the lead countries in the respective regions. And the project is trying to assist these countries to develop the right legislations, the right policies, and also to come up with a right strategy to implement the energy efficiency regulations. So that's one main focus. And we are trying to help that area by providing training, by providing the right tools, some guides, and by doing workshops, by encouraging the countries to form interministerial task force so they can implement the various steps of the project. So that's one main component. The next component is focusing on pure capacity building through training. So we first develop several training packages in different areas of energy efficiency, for example, how to develop a legislation, how to develop a strategy, what are the technical aspects of implementing the MARPO Annex 6. And these training packages are developed, and then we train the trainers, and these trainers can then train many people. So that's the second objective. And so we are trying to build this expertise component around the world. The third component is the private sector partnership, where we would really like to see the private sector getting more actively engaged along with IMO's policy processes. And we are trying to do that through this new global industry alliance we are trying to set up within this project framework.
Can you elaborate more on this global industry alliance? Do we have any particular selection criteria for this?
Yes. The Global Industry Alliance is a very innovative private-public sector partnership model. And we have experienced success of such a model in our previous project on ballast water, the GloBallast project, where we had developed a global industry alliance for marine biosecurity, which had brought some champion companies together, where they identified some solutions, and it was a very productive exercise. So we have then taken decision to have a very similar model in the energy efficiency area. So basically, the Global Industry Alliance tried to bring like-minded and proactive championing private sector companies, be it ship owners who are already taking actions so that others can follow from these models, or be it technology providers who have some innovative cutting-edge technologies who may want to take the technology around the world, and also other stakeholders. And we are trying to provide a platform for all these private sector players who have some similar interests, who can share the experience as lessons learned, and also identify those major issues and the major barriers for the industry to move ahead in addressing greenhouse gas emission issue. So, and what they do is they bring ideas, they bring resources to the table, and they try to come up with solutions and ideas. We are hoping that this will be in parallel to the IMO's traditional capacity building work and policy work that we do in the developing countries. And if the industry is moving at the same in a parallel way and connected to each other at the global, regional, and the national level, we can find the synergy between the policy work and between technology work, because these have to go together. They can't sustain without one another. So, and that's exactly what we are trying to do. There's a lot of interest from many private sector companies to join hands in this very innovative industry alliance partnership. They had seen the benefits from the previous times, and this time even more, because energy efficiency is something that everybody is looking forward to. Climate change is a big issue for everybody. So we are hoping we will attract a large number of industry, private sector stakeholders so that we can bring them together through this industry alliance.
So GloMIP has focused its attention in 10 different countries. Was it challenging due to the diverse factors of mix of people and policies?
Yes, GloMIP focused on 10 countries because we had to choose a few number of countries due to the resource limitations. We would have loved to go to all the countries, but we had to choose 10 countries. Now, these countries have given a commitment to take a faster track approach in addressing MARPO Annex 6 requirements and implementation. So these countries came with a commitment, they came with their own resources, but like any other areas, implementing global projects have its own challenges. And in this particular case, one of the challenges is the levels of policy developments in these countries. Some countries have gone ahead very well, some countries are starting the process. Some countries have already set up regulations, some countries are thinking of drafting regulations. And many times, these processes also get into the political side as well. So it is the variations in terms of where these countries are, and this project is trying to move at the same pace in all these countries. So it is an interesting challenge, but this project is really progressing well by focusing more on those countries where they have to move quite faster, and while other countries are providing their experiences and lessons learned, so the other countries can also benefit from this. So in the next 1 or 2 years' time, we are hoping that all these countries will start moving at the same pace, so that they become, in a way, the leads and the pilots in the respective regions. Then they can start reaching out to the other countries to encourage them to do the same thing, so they become kind of role models in the particular regions.
How successful has been the implementation of these projects? Would you like to share some instances?
Yes, I should say that the project has been quite well progressing. And in my terms, yes, it is showing successes. It is only in the first year of its implementation, so it's a bit early to say that it has been very successful. We still have some more time to go. But the signals are very good because all these countries have already established an interministerial task force, which will now steer the program in those countries, which is a very big step because it brings many ministries and other stakeholders together. The countries have gone through many trainings, and we have organized trainings in these countries. The countries have already started drafting their national strategies and the national policies, in some cases the legislations. So considering the objectives that you set for this project, I should say the first year has been very successful. Probably that's the reason why the project was recognized by one of those recent Lloyd's and award on energy efficiency. The person who is managing that project was recognized, and the project was recognized at the global level for its contribution in the energy efficiency area.
Recently, we heard that IMO has announced its second ambitious project, that is IMO European Union project for the climate change mitigation in the maritime shipping sector. Could you comment more on this, its aim, its plan, etc.?
Yes, glad you asked the question. It's a very exciting, at the same time, a very ambitious project that IMO has joined hands with the European Union. The background to this project is that there has been a strong discussion in IMO on this implementation of energy efficiency measures and climate change mitigation. And a resolution was passed by IMO community on technology transfer and capacity building, because it is important for implementation by all the countries. So in responding to that, the European Union pledged a significantly large sum of money, around 10 million euros, to support a concept of establishing 5 maritime technology cooperation centers, MTCCs. The idea is to develop a global network of regional centers of excellence who can eventually help capacity building in regional and national level, who can also create some enabling environment for transfer of technologies, facilitate technology cooperation, and also through that help the countries and the industry to take actions against these climate change issues. So the project started early this year, where IMO is currently trying to identify these 5 centers. And these centers, we call it MTCCN, Maritime Technology Cooperation Center Network. We would like to see this as a global network that also talk to each other, share their experiences. So we have been in the process of identifying the centers through an international competition process. We have received a large number of interests from around the world who would like to host such a center. And we are currently shortlisting and identifying which these 5 centers are going to be. Now, we have 5 regions that we are trying to focus in the beginning. These regions are the Caribbean region, the Latin American region, the African region, Asia region, and the Pacific region, where these centers will be established as centers of excellence who will help the maritime community to address the issue of climate change. The key objectives of this project, which is a 4-year project, is first to establish the centers through this seed funding, and these centers building the capacity in the countries and the region through training and other means, and they will undertake demonstration projects related to technologies, low carbon technologies. So that will actually give them experience related to these low carbon technologies that can then be diffused into the countries and into the industries there. They would also be undertaking demonstration or pilot projects on fuel consumption data and its reporting, which is a new mandatory requirement for IMO that the ships would have to collect the data on fuel consumption and report to the flag state, and the flag state then reporting back to IMO. So that's a process we would like the countries to have experience with. So these centers will do some demonstration of these projects. They gain experiences, so the countries in the region can then start collecting the data, and the industry can be benefited from this. So eventually, we hope that these 2 or 3 years of demonstration projects and capacity building will create the centers which will become self-sustainable into the future, that they can keep running without more support from our side, because they become some kind of centers of excellence in that region, who can then help the industry, the governments in various aspects of this issue. And it's very exciting for us. It's very ambitious, but we have seen similar models in the land-based side. It is not the first time. Under the UNFCCC Convention Framework on Climate Change, we have seen centers organized in the land side of it, in the land-based industries. The maritime, there has been a vacuum, and that's what we are trying to fill. And it has been going very well so far, because we will be identifying and commissioning these centers by end of this year or beginning of next year. It will significantly add to the efforts of IMO and also the European Union, who are also trying to address the same issues. So it's a fantastic cooperation between these 2 organizations to respond to the call by the developing countries that they would need capacity building, they would need technology transfer and technology cooperation. As you can see, that there is an increased focus on implementation from IMO side, and all these projects are in line with that new implementation focus, which our current Secretary General, Mr. Kitak Lim, has been heavily emphasizing, that IMO should start focusing more on the implementation. So all these projects, the MTCC, the GloMeep, and other projects that we are doing is very much in line with the vision that the Secretary General has set after he joined IMO in the implementation for these very important conventions.
Does a ship or small vessel carrying fresh water fall under ballast water discharge regulations?
Yes. The principle behind this is that any water carried from a different place has some risk, because it can contain different organisms compared to the organisms in the receiving side of it. So whether it is fresh water or salt water, it doesn't matter, it still poses some risk. So the IMO requires any floating vessels that is moving water from one place to the other place would have to meet the requirements of the convention, and they have to then meet the standards stipulated in the convention. The management methods may be different for freshwater, the treatment technologies might be different for freshwater, but once it discharged in a new area, it still has to meet the D2 standards of the convention.
Sir, could you please comment on some future upcoming projects that currently IMO is working for sustainable shipping?
Yes, sustainability and green shipping is at the core of IMO's work, in addition to the safety and security aspects. So, and IMO is, many of this work is also very much aligned with the sustainable development goals that the world has recently adopted. So we have been working on a number of projects which are currently ongoing. Four of them are funded by bilateral donors, and some of them are funded by agencies such as NORAD, the Norwegian Development Agency, as an example. One of the projects which I have been dealing was the ship recycling project in Bangladesh, so that we can enhance the capacity of the country to move towards the Hong Kong Convention on ship recycling. It has been a challenging but interesting project that we are undertaking right now, with a great objective of improving the capacity in the country to do environmentally sound and safe ship recycling. Another project that we are just about to complete is on oil spill in the South Asian region, where we have 5 countries, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and Pakistan, developing a regional response and contingency plan for oil spills if that happens in the Indian Ocean. And we have successfully brought these countries together to develop a regional contingency plan for both oil and chemical spill. That was a very significant achievement in the recent times. We are also working in East Asia on a number of environmental conventions, again funded through the NORAD project, trying to build the capacity in 6 East Asian countries in implementing some of the important IMO conventions such as the ballast water, AFS, or London Convention, etc. And these countries have significantly progressed in developing legislations and policies and strategies to implement the convention. Some of them even have ratified these conventions, such as Indonesia recently ratified the Ballast Convention. Another project is on identifying particularly sensitive sea areas in some parts of the world, where the ships would have to meet some additional requirements because those are particularly sensitive areas. For the future, I would like to highlight that the sustainability journey cannot be done by shipping alone. Ships are one element of a continuum of this maritime transportation system. So we are hoping that we could have projects that involve ports and other logistics aspects. So all these components can contribute to the sustainability journey. For example, this year's the 2017 World Maritime Day theme is shipping, ports, and people. So you can see how all these 3 components, shipping, ports, and people, are getting connected. And we are hoping to have projects that also deal with the ports, energy efficiency, and and sustainability aspects as well. Some projects that I'm currently working on with some donors involve those aspects as well. So yes, a lot of ideas out there, and there's a lot of interest from various stakeholders and donors to continue the sustainability journey, which I think is very important for all of us and all of our future generations.
Before winding up the show, I would like to borrow another quote. A professional is not defined by his paycheck, work, or title. He is defined only by his work ethics. Today, we have shared some great views from such a great professional. And thank you for being a part of this show, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to another episode of Quarter Deck.